I wonder if you remember the days when a music store in your town would organize showcase concerts in association with the big electronic organ companies like Hammond, Lowrey and Yamaha. The entire company's product range would be displayed on stage with one of the country's star organists moving from model to model explaining all the features each instrument had to offer and playing all kinds of different music. The aim of the event was of course to sell instruments, but in an ingenious way it was also a very entertaining experience for what was often a very diverse clientele. In the audience there would be those that didn't play an instrument but had a keen interest in the electronic organ and enjoyed the music that it was capable of producing. Unlike the many demo discs and internet videos that we see today where only a fragment of music is used to demonstrate a particular feature, each piece of music would be expertly arranged and performed all the way through. So these people enjoyed a full evening's entertainment from a top professional musician, and although they weren't going to buy an organ they would almost certainly attend concerts by other organists featuring the brand and more than likely buy their recordings. Then there were those that did play an instrument, usually the piano, and they might be considering purchasing an electronic organ. For these people the demonstrations were the most useful and important part of the event, enabling them to gain a well-informed detailed knowledge of the instruments and to make comparisons with other brands. If they were impressed with what they saw and heard, a decision to buy might be imminent, or it might be an aspiration for the future. Finally there were those that already owned an electronic organ, either from the brand that was being demonstrated or from another manufacturer. In addition to learning all about the instruments, these people were also able to pick up useful tips on playing techniques and styles from the demonstrations. If they owned a previous model of the same brand they might be persuaded to trade up to the latest model. If they owned a model from another brand they might consider going for a trade-in. Well, these days such events are few and far between, but the good news is that through the wonders of the internet we can recreate this memorable experience. So sit back and relax as we raise the curtain on our Wersi organ showcase.
Welcome to the wonderful world of Wersi. The curtain rises on our showcase to the sound of this well-known theme from Richard Strauss in which we feature the brass and string sections from the organ's orchestral sounds and timpani from the percussion section. Before we look in detail at the various aspects of the instrument, let's hear the full Wersi sound with a piece of music that utilizes many of its features, including a selection of orchestral sounds, a rhythm from the drum unit, a style from the accompaniment unit and instruments from the percussion section. In addition to a comprehensive set of standard effects in the special effects unit, we also have the option of loading in our own effects like the galloping horses and gunshots that you will hear in the opening sequence of the piece. Since we're starting with all guns blazing, how about something with a western theme? So saddle up your horse and let's head way out west to those wide open spaces as we listen to the music of Elmer Bernstein. In this first piece by Edward Elgar we feature the string section of the orchestra and then later on add in the brass section. A full string section would consist of double bass, cello, viola and violin. These all sound at different pitches and will typically be playing different parts. If we select a string sound at standard pitch and play in ensemble style, i.e. both hands on the same keyboard, we achieve the desired effect, the pedal and left hand providing the double bass and cello parts with the right hand providing the viola and violin. The same technique also applies for the construction of the brass section. For this next piece by Giacomo Puccini we use a combination of ensemble and solo accompaniment playing. For the accompaniment and the solos we choose a string sound, and also for the solos the horn, flute and English horn. Signore Puccini wrote the orchestration with an arpeggio harp accompaniment, and here we hit a problem: we've run out of hands. The solution is to pre-record the harp accompaniment using the instrument's MIDI record facility and then play this back as part of the performance. There will be more on this facility later in the showcase. For this final piece by Johann Strauss we make extensive use of the instrument's panorama feature. This enables any sound to be placed anywhere in the stereo sound field from far left to far right. This is ideal for constructing an orchestra since the various sections of the orchestra are spread right across the sound stage. Horns to the far left, violins left of center, violas, woodwind and percussion in the center, cellos right of center and double basses, trumpets and trombones to the far right. For even more accuracy, we could employ the instrument's individual reverberation feature to add more of this effect to instruments farther back on the stage, thereby creating a three-dimensional sound field. So in this piece you will hear the strings, flute and English horn at the center, the vibraphone, horns and pizzicato violins to the left, and the trombone and brass section to the right.
The classic electronic organ sound has come to be defined by that of the Hammond organ. The unique feature of this instrument was a set of harmonic drawbars attached to an electro-mechanical sine wave tone generator. The drawbars enabled the player to mix these tones together at various pitches to provide literally millions of different sound combinations. The Wersi organ replicates this with an equivalent set of console drawbars and 3 different methods of tone generation. The first of these is the OX7 unit, which generates the required sine wave tones using a dedicated digital signal processor. The OX7 unit uses a graphical setup menu on the instrument's display and push buttons on the console to provide all the features of 2 of the original Hammond instruments, namely the B3 and H100 models, as well as those of previous analog and digital Wersi models. In this piece made famous by Hammond artist Ethel Smith to demonstrate the responsiveness of the electronic organ, we hear the OX7 unit generating the iconic sounds of the B3. A popular addition to the Hammond organ was the Leslie speaker. This comprised a tweeter, high-frequency speaker inside a rotating horn at the top of a speaker cabinet and a woofer, low-frequency speaker mounted over a rotating drum at the bottom. Rotation could be at 2 speeds, a chorale mode to imitate the sound of a church organ or a tremolo mode to imitate that of a theater organ. The Wersi organ performs this function electronically under the control of push buttons on the instrument's console. This next piece, popularized in the 1960s by the group Procol Harum, features the OX7 unit emulating the Leslie speaker in both chorale and tremolo modes. The second method of tone generation is referred to as the O's drawbars, also called the Wersi drawbars, and is essentially a set of digital sine wave samples that provide all the required pitches for the console drawbars. These samples differ tonally from those of the OX7 unit in that they are more representative of the drawbar sounds of previous Wersi instruments. A graphical setup menu on the instrument's display is provided and all the required functions are controlled from the same set of console push buttons that are used to operate the OX7 unit. Undoubtedly, the man most responsible for popularizing the electronic organ in past decades was the German organist Klaus Wunderlich. He pioneered the technique of multi-tracking which, in addition to mixing together several different organ parts, would also add to the recording a variety of other instruments such as guitars, drums and synthesizers. This next piece features a medley of tunes from the Klaus Wunderlich era using the sounds of the OX7 unit and played in his style. The multi-tracking element is achieved using a backing track produced by the organ's MIDI record facility and includes instruments from an accompaniment style and additional organ parts from the O's drawbars. The medley comprises the French Eurovision entry Love is Blue, followed by the Tom Jones hit The Green Green Grass of Home, then the theme from the movie Love Story, and finally the Beatles' classic Yesterday. The third method of tone generation employs what is called virtual studio technology (VST), developed by the Steinberg Company to enable the hardware equipment used in recording studios to be emulated in its desktop, laptop sound processing software. In addition to those devices incorporated as standard, the modular construction of the software allows for a wide range of additional devices to be included. These modules are referred to as VST plugins and can be of two types, namely instrument and effects. As their name suggests, instrument plugins will typically emulate a particular musical instrument, e.g. a range of pianos, whilst effects plugins generally provide sound processing functions, e.g. reverberation. The introduction of an interface and protocol standard for software utilizing VST plugins has resulted in both a rapid expansion of plugin-compatible software and a comprehensive range of VST plugin packages. The PC-based technology of Wersi instruments makes it possible to incorporate up to 4 VST plugins on the organ, provided that they are compatible with the instrument's software. Currently 2 VST plugins are offered by the company, the VB3 and the B4, both emulating the sounds and features of the Hammond B3 model. With its fast attack and percussion effect, the B3 was a particular favorite amongst jazz organists, as is demonstrated here using the sounds of the B4 plugin in a classic Duke Ellington composition.
The Wersi organ provides two different methods of tone generation to replicate the sounds of the church organ, namely drawbars and pipe organ samples. The sine waves produced by the drawbar system have a flute-like tonal quality and so are ideally suited to the synthesis of flute and diapason stops. Combinations of just the octave drawbars work best here. Reed and string stops can also be synthesized by adding the non-octave drawbars, but these are generally less realistic as they require the more complex harmonics of square waves. Any of the drawbar systems on the organ can be employed, OX7, OS drawbars or VST plugins, either individually or in combination. The vibrato controls should either be switched off or set to one of the C chorus modes. The Leslie speaker operating in chorale mode can also assist in producing an authentic church organ ambience, as can the setting of longer reverberation times in a dedicated drawbar reverberation unit. The pipe organ samples are recordings taken from a variety of different church organs. A number of individual flute, diapason, reed and string stops are provided for use either in solo work or for adding together in suitable combinations. Currently only a maximum of 4 sounds can be layered together on any keyboard of a Wersi instrument, so a number of more complex combination samples are also provided to produce full organ registrations. An optional package called the Sound Factory, featured later in the showcase, overcomes this layering restriction by enabling a greatly increased number of sounds to be added together, so many more stops can be combined just as in an actual pipe organ. With the activation of an optional sacral package, the existing samples can be significantly augmented by a range of additional single and combination samples, again recorded from actual instruments, and so produce a very comprehensive church organ sound set. Either or both of these sets of samples can be used separately or together and can even be combined with any or all of the drawbar systems. In the following cantata by Bach we hear both the OX7 drawbar system and the pipe organ samples combined together in 4 registrations that build into a full organ crescendo. We start with a soft flute accompaniment to which is added a diapason solo, then a soft diapason accompaniment with a quint solo, followed by the diapason chorus and finally the full organ. We move back down through the registrations to finish where we started with the soft flute. Oh, and don't be surprised if in addition to the church organ sounds you also hear a solo chorister and the ringing of church bells, courtesy of the instrument's special effects unit.
As with the church organ, the Wersi instrument provides the same two methods of tone generation to replicate the sounds of the theater organ, namely drawbars and pipe organ samples. The flute-like tones of the drawbar system are ideally suited to the synthesis of flute and tibia stops, and combinations of just the octave drawbars work best for these. Brass and string stops can also be synthesized by adding the non-octave drawbars, but these are generally less realistic as they require the more complex harmonics of square waves. Any of the drawbar systems on the organ can be employed, OX7, OS drawbars or VST plugins, either individually or in combination. The vibrato controls should either be set to one of the vibrato modes or switched off depending on whether a tremolo effect is required or not. The Leslie speaker operating in tremolo mode is also very effective in producing the classic theater organ sound, and longer reverberation times in the dedicated drawbar reverberation unit can provide a large theater ambience. The pipe organ samples are recordings taken from a variety of different theater organs. A number of individual flute, tibia, brass and string stops are provided for use either in solo work or for adding together in suitable combinations. Currently only a maximum of 4 sounds can be layered together on any keyboard of a Wersi instrument, so a number of more complex combination samples are also provided to produce full organ registrations. As with the church organ, the optional Sound Factory package overcomes this layering restriction by enabling a greatly increased number of sounds to be added together, so many more stops can be combined. With the activation of an optional theater package, the existing samples can be significantly augmented by a range of additional single and combination samples, again recorded from actual instruments, and so produce a very comprehensive theater organ sound set. Either or both of these sets of samples can be used separately or together and can even be combined with any or all of the drawbar systems. In the following piece by Pasquale Marchina we hear both the OX7 drawbar system and the pipe organ samples combined together in 4 registrations that feature all of the flute, tibia, brass and string sounds of the organ in both tremolo and non-tremolo modes. We also add a drum rhythm from the accompaniment unit to emulate the percussion section found on many theater organs, and this is complemented by the use of a drum roll from a range of standard and specialized drum sets that can be placed on the keys of the lower keyboard. And in addition to the theater organ sounds, brace yourself for the adol from an enthusiastic group of Spaniards, again courtesy of the instrument's special effects unit.
The Wersi organ contains a comprehensive set of synthesizer sounds sampled from a wide range of past and present synthesizers. These can be substantially enhanced with the activation of an optional World of Synths package which provides a large selection of additional sounds. Together they provide a very comprehensive set of leads, pads, brass, sweeps, loops etc. and synthesizer controls such as filters and oscillators. In this first piece by Burt Bacharach and Hal David we use a variety of different synthesizer sounds from both the OS database and the optional package to demonstrate how these unique sounds can be blended in with the more traditional orchestral sounds of the instrument. Synthesizer sounds are used for the intro, bridge sections and ending of the piece and also for the middle section. Percussive sounds are chosen for all the registrations to complement the raindrop motif of the piece which is prefaced by a rainstorm from the special effects unit. An umbrella is recommended. In this next piece by John Williams, all the orchestrations are taken entirely from the OS synthesizer database and the World of Synths optional package. Additional effects are provided by the Special Effects unit. May the Force be with you.
The Wersi organ offers a comprehensive selection of accompaniments or styles as they are more commonly known. Styles are continuously repeating rhythm sequences comprising drums, bass and a set of instruments appropriate to a particular musical genre. They derive their harmonies from the chords held down on the lower keyboard. Over the years, styles have progressed from relatively simple 1 or 2 bars patterns to more elaborate rhythm sequences, some specific to particular tunes, with variations, intros, endings, breaks and fill-ins. Their applications range from providing the sole accompaniment for a melody at one end of the spectrum to their inclusion as an essential component of a completely integrated orchestral arrangement at the other. In the following examples we highlight the latter application since it demonstrates more of the instrument's features and capabilities. The accompaniment section of the instrument is implemented by a package known as the Open Art Arranger (OAA), a unique feature of which is the ability to edit the instruments, sequences and rhythms of the style, and even create entirely new accompaniments. In this first piece from the musical Jesus Christ Superstar by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, we use the Edit Instrument feature to change the instrumentation in the style so that this together with the keyboard registrations now forms the complete orchestration for the song. Another useful feature of styles is their ability to provide the backing instruments for a particular musical genre. In this next piece, The Square Dance from the musical Oklahoma by Rodgers and Hammerstein, we use a country style to provide the rhythm section for an orchestral arrangement of the song. The edit instrument feature is again used to modify the instrumentation in the style to provide the required orchestral instruments. Listen out for the finish of the song where we hear one of the style endings, and feel free to join in with the yahoos from the special effects unit. Some organists, particularly those with professional training, prefer not to use styles on the basis that their monotonous regularity limits the individuality and creativity of the performance. In truth, however, no matter how competent a musician might be, there is only so much that can be achieved with 2 hands and 2 feet. A style can be very effective in providing what keyboard registrations and playing technique cannot, as in this jazz classic by Henry Creamer and Turner Layton. Here we use a style to provide all the instruments in a Dixieland jazz band, initially as backing for the individual solo improvisations, then in a later section for the complete ensemble. The edit sequence feature is used to modify the instrument and drum patterns in the breaks and fill-ins to better fit the construction of the song. As well as the facility to change the instrumentation and sequences in a style, the OAA also provides a style record facility to create entirely new styles by enabling the drum, bass and instrument parts to be specified and recorded individually from the keyboard. This process is especially useful if a particularly unique arrangement is required, as in this final piece by Ravel where the orchestration is quite specific to the music. Here we use the style record feature to create 4 variations of a style, each one becoming more elaborate as the piece progresses, and also a suitable ending for a crash, bang, wallop finish.
The optional Rhythm Designer package offers an extensive set of instrumental and percussion rhythms patterns that can be used as individual accompaniments. Additionally, any 4 of these rhythm patterns can be combined together to create the tracks of a style, and any 4 combinations of these tracks can be used to define a set of 4 variations for the style. Because all of the rhythm patterns are predefined, the Rhythm Designer provides an easier and quicker method of creating accompaniments than the Style Record option in the Open Art Arranger (OAA), which requires each rhythm pattern to be recorded individually. As with the OAA, the instrumentation for each selected rhythm can be changed if required. The Rhythm Designer is very flexible to use. By itself, it can provide a stand-alone accompaniment, or alternatively it can be played simultaneously with any style from the OAA. Each of the accompaniment variations can be assigned to any of the first 4 special effects buttons and/or the 4 variation buttons on the console. In this first piece by Pete Seeger, made famous by Peter, Paul and Mary, we use a Rhythm Designer style for the accompaniment, switching in and out the different variations as the music progresses. The musette featured in the third verse is from an optional World of Accordions package, and the final verse employs one of the many vocal sounds available on the instrument.
Thank you.
The Rhythm Designer also provides an extensive set of arpeggio patterns for each of its instruments. These can be operated either in single-shot mode or in a continuous loop, and can be used with any of the other rhythm patterns and even the OAA styles. In this next piece by Jay Livingston and Ray Evans, made famous by Doris Day, we use both the Rhythm Designer and the OAA. In the Rhythm Designer style we have a single-shot harp arpeggio plus guitar and string rhythm patterns, whilst an OAA style supplies an alternative accompaniment for the third verse of the song. The arpeggios are triggered by a feature known as the remote octave, in which we can designate any group of 8 notes on the lower manual as the remote octave, and then have these notes linked to the special effects buttons. So hitting the key in the remote octave that corresponds to the arpeggio special effects button will activate the arpeggio. In this next piece written and performed by ABBA, we demonstrate the continuous loop arpeggio capabilities of the Rhythm Designer. We use an OAA style throughout, adding an 8-beat then a 16-beat piano arpeggio in the last 2 choruses of the piece. A number of rhythm patterns in the Rhythm Designer are quite elaborate. Two examples of these are featured in this final piece by Arthur Smith from the movie Deliverance. The accompaniment for the piece comprises a style from the OAA combined with a guitar pattern from the Rhythm Designer. For the middle section, however, we select two rhythm patterns from the country section of the Rhythm Designer, a manic piano player and then an even more manic fiddle player. Hold on to your hats, folks, it gets a little bit wild.
The Wersi organ provides a comprehensive range of sound processing effects which can be added to any of the sounds in the sound database. Among these are reverberation, chorus, dynamics and delay. All of these provide adjustable parameters that can be programmed by the user to suit the requirements of the music. Reverberation can be applied in two ways: on the total sound to create the ambience of a variety of acoustic environments from a small intimate jazz club to a large cavernous cathedral, and on individual sounds to add depth to the sound field. The latter is particularly useful when positioning instruments in an orchestral arrangement. The chorus effect adds fullness to instrumental ensembles, so is particularly useful for strings, brass, choral sounds etc. In this first piece by John Williams from the movie Saving Private Ryan, we apply both reverberation and chorus effects. Reverberation is applied to the total sound to create the ambience of a large concert hall, and individually to the trumpets to imply a sense of distance. Chorus is added to all the choral and brass registrations to create a broader, fuller sound. The percussion fade-out at the end of the piece is achieved by using the fade-in, out feature from the accompaniment unit, which performs this operation automatically. Wersi keyboards are velocity sensitive so that when the dynamic effect is activated, the force applied to the keys directly controls the volume of sound that is being produced. This provides a realistic representation of how actual instruments perform. Additionally, the timbre of many instruments changes with different degrees of force, so the Wersi instrument samples also provide for a change in tonality. The dynamic effect can be used in a variety of ways. In this second piece from the classic movie Casablanca, we demonstrate two of these. In the first section we use the dynamic effect to add realism to the saxophone voice, and in the second section to provide a brass sforzando on selective chords in the trombone accompaniment.
Play it once, Sam. For all time's sake.
I don't know what you mean, Miss Elsa.
Play it, Sam. Play as time goes by.
Oh, I can't remember it, Miss Elsa. I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
joints in all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
The dynamic effect requires a dynamic curve for its operation. This relates the volume of sound produced to the force applied to the keys. Wersi provide a comprehensive set of dynamic curves that can be individually assigned for each selected sound. This is particularly useful when sounds are layered together and we require them to behave in different ways when a key is struck. Some of the sounds in the sound database have this feature already built in. In this popular Latin American number by Antonio Carlos Jobim, we use two of these in the middle sections of the piece, a saxophone-brass combination and a muted trumpet-brass combination. A soft touch on the keys plays the first sound in the combination and a harder touch plays the second. The delay effect is similar in nature to reverberation but with a longer time interval between the original and reflected sounds such that we can actually hear an echo. Delay is used extensively in synthesizer sounds and special effects, but is also very popular with guitarists. In this orchestral arrangement of tunes made famous by the Shadows, the effect is applied to the sound of the iconic Stratocaster guitar. The medley comprises Wonderful Land, followed by Theme for Young Lovers, then Apache, and finally Atlantis.
Articulation is the term used to describe the various ways in which a note can be played on a musical instrument. There are many different types of articulation and these vary from instrument to instrument. A number of sounds on the Wersi organ have articulation built into the samples. For example, the marcato strings have an accented attack, the tremolo strings have a continuous vibrato and the trumpet has a delayed vibrato. For these sounds the articulation applies to every note we play. There are occasions, however, when we wish to apply articulation only to specific notes. A popular articulation used on a wide range of instruments is that of varying the pitch. The Wersi organ provides three types of pitch variation, the first of which is known as pitch bend. This is characterized by a momentary raising or lowering of the pitch, either by using the pitch wheel located on the console or by programming the Hawaii effect into one of the expression pedal foot switches. The pitch wheel enables both the degree of pitch variation and its duration to be defined, whilst the Hawaii effect provides a fixed pitch variation but its duration is programmable. Pitch bend is used across a number of different musical genres including country, soul, jazz, blues and big band. In this sultry blues arrangement of a Hoagie Carmichael classic we use pitch bend successively on the flugelhorn, guitar, clarinet and trumpet. The piano countermelody in the first chorus is programmed into the style using the OAA style record function previously described in the accompaniments section of the showcase. A number of musical instruments such as strings, guitars and trombones are able to produce a glide in pitch from one note to another. This is our second type of pitch variation and is known as portamento. On the Wersi organ this effect is available in an optional portamento activation package which features a range of applicable instruments. The effect is produced by holding down one note whilst playing the next. In this second piece, made famous by Tony Bennett, we feature the soft trombone from the portamento package at the beginning and end of the piece. The legendary Fender Rhodes electric piano is used for the introduction. The arrangement for the accompaniment has been created by the MIDI sequence editor using a style from the accompaniment unit combined with additional orchestral instruments. There will be more on creating MIDI sequences later in the showcase. The difference in pitch between the two notes of the portamento effect varies depending on how far apart the notes are from each other. In some instruments, however, we require the transition to a note to be a fixed amount, and this is pitch glide, our third type of pitch variation. In the second section of this final piece composed by Henry Mancini for a TV mini-series, we use this effect to create the characteristic sound of the Celtic flute. On Wersi instruments there is no fixed glide effect provided, but we can program this into any of the sounds in the sound database using the pitch modification facilities available in the optional Sound Factory activation package. There will be more on the Sound Factory later in the showcase. The effect can be activated on any note by striking the note harder using the dynamic control. The introduction to the piece also features an Indian sitar, one of the many ethnic sounds available on the instrument, and listen out for the tweeting birds at the end of the piece courtesy of the special effects unit.
When a number of similar instruments are playing together, as in the string, brass and woodwind sections of bands and orchestras, the different parts that they play will form a series of chords as the musical score progresses. This effect can be replicated on Wersi instruments by using an OS facility called Wersi chord. It turns a single note being played on the upper manual into a chord. The sound for this chord is specified in Selector 3 of the upper manual and is activated by the Wersi chord button on the console. The notes for the chord are harmonized from the chord being played on the lower manual. A set of different modes for the Wersi chord enables a wide variety of harmonizations to be defined for a range of different playing styles, including brass, woodwind and vocal ensembles. In this first piece from the musical A Chorus Line, composed by Marvin Hamlisch, we demonstrate the Wersi chord solo mode. This is a single-note harmonization that enables the instrument selected for the Wersi chord to sound only on the top note of all the chords being played by the other upper manual sounds. The effect is used in the last section of the piece to add a solo Wersi chord trumpet to the chords of the upper manual strings. There are a number of Wersi chord modes that enable two-part harmonizations to be defined. In this next piece popularized by Bert Kaempfert and his orchestra, the piccolos in the woodwind section feature prominently. A three-part harmonization for these is achieved by combining a Wersi chord piccolo with an upper manual piccolo. Setting the Wersi chord to duet mode provides the two lower notes of the harmonization whilst the upper manual piccolo provides the top note for the melody. In this final piece we use one of the ensemble harmonizations of the Wersi chord to create the classic sound of the Glenn Miller Orchestra. The harmonization for this is achieved by combining a Wersi chord saxophone with upper manual saxophone and clarinet. Setting the Wersi chord to reed mode provides the chords for the orchestra's main saxophone section whilst the upper manual saxophone and clarinet provide the melody.
In addition to the two types of accompaniments previously considered, styles and rhythm patterns, there is a third option which is provided by the instrument's media player. This can play a variety of media files, of which MIDI, WAV and MP3 files are the most useful for accompaniments. Unlike styles and rhythm patterns however, which typically provide a loop of only a few bars, these media files can provide the accompaniment for an entire song. In this regard it is more accurate to describe them as backing tracks. There is a huge number of files available in all three formats covering a wide variety of songs and musical styles. Additionally, users can create their own backing tracks using the instrument's built-in digital and MIDI recorders. The digital recorder is a conventional audio recorder producing a single-track stereo wave file from the music being played. An optional multi-recorder package extends this provision by enabling up to 8 stereo tracks to be separately recorded and mixed together. There are no editing facilities in either of these two recorders. The MIDI recorder uses a software package called a MIDI sequencer to capture MIDI data as the organ is being played and then stores this in a MIDI file. Up to 16 tracks can be recorded, and extensive editing facilities are provided in the sequencer for changing track and note data. We can either record the complete accompaniment in one go using the MIDI recorder, or a track at a time using the MIDI sequencer, or a combination of both. In this first piece composed for the movie Titanic by Will Jennings and James Horner, we use the MIDI recorder exclusively to record a piano backing track for the song, then play this back as an accompaniment for the performance. Using the MIDI sequencer as a multi-track recorder enables complex accompaniments to be built up track by recording each track individually from the keyboards. During the recording of each new track, all the existing tracks are automatically played back so that accurate timing and volume balancing can be achieved. In this next piece composed by Stanley Myers for the movie The Deer Hunter, we use the MIDI sequencer to construct a complete orchestral accompaniment. For the performance we add on the melody, string accompaniment and bass from the keyboard and pedals. By combining the MIDI recorder and the MIDI sequencer, a composite accompaniment can be constructed. This is accomplished in two stages. First we record some of the tracks using the MIDI recorder, then we add in the remaining tracks using the MIDI sequencer. In this next piece popularized by Buddy Holly, we use the MIDI recorder to record a style from the accompaniment unit over the entire length of the song. Then we add in the remaining tracks of the orchestration using the MIDI sequencer. As before for the performance, we add on the melody, string accompaniment and bass from the keyboards and pedals. The media player is also able to play video files. In this application, the video content is displayed on the instrument's touchscreen. A popular application of a video file would be to simply provide a visual accompaniment for the music being played. If appropriate, however, the audio in these files can also be used as an accompaniment. In this final piece composed by Randy Newman for the movie Toy Story 2, we use the vocal sung on the video by Sarah McLachlan as a backing track and fill in the rest of the orchestration from the organ to provide a combined audio-video performance.
Somebody loved me, everything was beautiful. Every hour we spent together lives within my heart. And when she was sad, I was there to dry her tears. And when she was happy, so was I. When she she was So the years went by, I stayed the same, but she began to drift away. I was left alone. Still I waited for the day when she'd say, I will always love you. Lonely and forgotten, never thought she'd look my way. And she smiled at me and held me just like she used to do. Like she loved me when she loved me. When somebody loved me, everything was beautiful. Every hour we spent together lives within my heart. When she
Most of the sounds that we hear on Wersi instruments have been created from a library of sound samples by a sound designer using audio processing software. Typically there will be 2 or 3 of these samples for each sound on the organ, and this software enables these to be combined together and manipulated to produce the sounds we see in the organ's sound database. The Sound Controls menu in the OS provides the player with a facility for adjusting a small number of parameters for each of these sounds, but the Sound Factory optional activation package enables a far greater range of adjustments to be made. There are 3 very useful applications for this package. Firstly, we can design a set of completely new sounds that have not been included in the sound database. Secondly, we can create a range of new and innovative playing features and effects that have not been made available in the OS. Thirdly, if a particular sound is not entirely to our liking, we can make extensive tonal adjustments to it and also create new variants. In this first piece we take a number of existing sounds from the sound database and manipulate these in the Sound Factory to create a set of entirely new sounds that are not present in the sound database. The sounds featured are a vocal whistle, a Celtic harp, a balalaika with built-in repeat function, a concertina, a Celtic flute with velocity-controlled pitch bend, and a bagpipe chorus. The wave, seagull and wind chime effects are taken from the organ's special effects unit. Although Wersi instruments provide a good range of playing features and effects for all their sounds, we can significantly increase this provision by using the many adjustable parameters available in the sound factory. For example, we could add a delayed vibrato, or a pitch bend, or a portamento, or a wah-wah effect, or a continuous repeat function. Also, by combining several different types of samples together, we can create many new composite sounds, with individually customized characteristics for their constituent components. This is a much more flexible and effective approach than simply layering them together in the OS selectors. In this second piece, we design a composite sound to recreate the unique warm, lush playing style of the George Shearing Quintet. The sound comprises three components that are activated together by playing a chord. The top note of the chord plays the vibraphone, the bottom note plays the guitar, and the piano plays the whole chord. Bass is provided by the pedals, and a style provides the drums. The extensive sound controls available in the Sound Factory make it possible to make comprehensive adjustments to the tonal characteristics of a sound. This enables us not only to customize an existing sound to our own particular requirements, but also to create different variants of that sound. In this final piece by Joaquin Rodrigo, we modify a number of existing sounds from the sound database to create a Peruvian pan flute, a Spanish guitar, and an ethereal string section.
Well, that's the wonderful world of Wersi and the end of our tour, highlighting many of the features of these amazing instruments. As the curtain falls on this final song, written and performed by the Swedish pop group ABBA, we end as we began with an arrangement that utilizes many of these features, including a selection of orchestral, drawbar and synthesizer sounds, a customized sound from the sound factory, a rhythm from the drum unit and a style from the accompaniment unit. Do I hear shouts of encore? Well, okay then, here's a little bit of nonsense presented by Mr. Wersi and featuring his amazing digital big band. As we will hear though, not everything goes quite according to plan.
Why are we vamping till ready, Mr. Wersi?
We're waiting for the saxophone player.
Well, where is he?
He's in the bar with the trumpet player.
Well, get them out and get them here. Ah, here they come now. Now what's the matter, Mr. Wersi?
We're waiting for the clarinet player.
Well, where is he?
He's in the bar with a trombone player.
Well, get them out and get them here. Ah, here they come now. Nice choir, Mr. Wersi. But shouldn't there be a piano player too?
Yes, but the piano lid is locked, and he can't get it open.
All that's easily fixed. Tell him to use this crowbar. Oh dear, we seem to have lost a few keys. Never mind, there's still plenty left. Who are all these people, Mr. Wersi?
They're friends of the saxophone player.
Do they all play the saxophone?
Yes, they do.
Oh, good. Now we have a saxophone section. You know what would make a great ending to this tune, Mr. Wersi?
And what would that be?
A brass section.
Funny you should say that. Here it is.
Well done, Mr. Wersi. We got there in the end. See you in the bar.
The Wersi Organ Showcase was written, produced and presented by Jeff Ormerod and played live on the Wersi Scala. I hope you have enjoyed learning more about these amazing instruments, and thanks for visiting the showcase.